Excellent. Thanks so much. So I'm presenting today on the restoration of native coastal salt marsh and dune mat communities at the Ocean Ranch unit of the Eel River Wildlife Area in Humboldt County. The Ocean Ranch unit encompasses 850 acres. We are southwest of Eureka, and 571 of those acres is estuarine, and 279 acres is dunes. I want to acknowledge that this is within the Wiyot ancestral territory, and also that this is a really central location along an important water resource, Wiyot, the Eel River. And we're super excited to have the Wiyot tribe as an important partner, contributing to fisheries monitoring, among other things. The Ocean Ranch Restoration Project has two major goals. The first is to restore and expand natural estuarine function and habitat, and the second is to restore natural dune function and habitat. And I'd like to say that the estuarine restoration also has this major fish habitat construction and tidal restoration component, including recontouring slough channels and breaching levees. So this photo shows an exciting moment when the last scoop was taken out of the levee, opening this area up to full tidal influence that was previously diked and drained for agriculture. And this allows fish, including juvenile coho salmon, which are now using this habitat, to access it. And today, however, I'm going to just focus on the vegetation components of this project. We have a really large and great team contributing to this. It's certainly not just me. So shout out to all of our team. We still have some really amazing native salt marsh at Ocean Ranch. This is a sensitive natural community. It's highly diverse. And it's habitat for several rare plants, including Humboldt Bay owl's clover, point raised bird's beak, lingby sedge, and sea watch. However, approximately 300 acres of salt marsh has been invaded to some extent by dense flowered cordgrass, Spartina densiflora. And I'll refer to that here as Spartina. 193 acres of that is medium to high density, which looks pretty much like you see here. Much lower diversity, low native cover. And so we are removing invasive Spartina by mechanical grinding with heavy equipment and brush cutters. And we're also using herbicide application via backpack sprayer. So here you can see our mechanical treatment area. This is 18 acres of area that was accessible via these previously constructed levees. And so we were able to get heavy equipment in there to get this started in 2021. And here you can see what that looks like. This is approximately 1 year later. So with some vegetation coming back, but you can see there's a little bit of tracking, so some disturbance. We are also using herbicide, and we have sprayed 11 acres at Ocean Ranch. We started that in 2022. And though all heavy equipment was really effective and efficient in removing Spartina in accessible areas of the salt marsh, many of the highly invaded salt marsh areas at Ocean Ranch are loaded with large wood from the Eel River, and or some of them are on islands surrounded by slough channels, which makes the access really difficult. And so the primary plan for these areas has been to spray imazapyr with backpack sprayers and then remove the biomass with fire or mowing. And imazapyr is suitable because it's very low toxicity. It works by blocking a plant growth pathway, which animals do not have. And it photodegrades rapidly in water and sunlight, making it suitable for use in a salt marsh. So spraying may need to be combined with biomass removal especially for a species like Spartina to be effective. We have tried using some fire as a biomass removal method. However, it's a very wet habitat. With access issues and availability of crews, it's been very difficult to get this component implemented. Here you can see our spray plot. This is approximately 1 year after spraying. So at first glance, it's looking very dead. We were super happy. Unfortunately, when we inspected a little closer, we could see there's still some green at the base. And the following spring, after rains, it did start to green up again. But but you could see at this time that we were making some good progress with quite dead looking Spartina on the left and the unsprayed Spartina flowering on the right. We're simultaneously monitoring some high marsh creation sites, and these are created as part of the fish habitat construction after scooping out the sediment from sloughs and fish habitat features that were constructed. Sediments were deposited at the level of the marsh. And so this has given us a really interesting near blank slate to monitor simultaneously. And here you can see approximately a year after depositing those sediments, we have some vegetation coming in. It is a mixture of Spartina, other non-native species, and our native salt marsh species. Here's a plot of our Spartina cover change over time. And you can see that in the herbicide areas in green, we had a sharp drop off in Spartina cover. However, it never reached the really low cover levels of the mechanical treatment in blue, which started in 2021. So we've got a difference here in the effectiveness. And interestingly, we are also seeing an increase in Spartina after 2 years in our high marsh creation areas. So these areas are getting reinvaded. So mean native salt marsh cover is shown here. And our mechanical treatment, which began the earliest in 2021, has shown significant native vegetation regrowth. And that you can see that in blue here. In contrast, our herbicide areas have not shown a lot of native vegetation regrowth. Our high marsh creation areas have seen a rebound after depositing that sediment, but it is much less at this time than our mechanical areas and much less than reference conditions in native salt marsh. So in summary, while all treatments reduce Spartina cover, they did not do so equally. Mechanical treatments reduce the Spartina cover by 90%, which is great. And native cover and richness are increasing in these areas. So this is looking really positive. Herbicide alone appeared to be less immediately effective. We still face this substantial challenge in holding the line in these areas that were mechanically treated as Spartina is reinvading. Implementing removing a large quantity of biomass in coordination with spraying is a major challenge that we need to figure out if we're going to treat areas that are not accessible for heavy equipment. So we plan to continue to monitor and adaptively manage. We'd potentially like to start some pilot projects to figure out different ways to go about implementation in areas where we can't access for mechanical treatment. Secondly, I'd like to turn to dune restoration. And so we face a parallel problem in our Ocean Ranch dunes. There's another highly invasive grass, European beach grass, Ammophila arenaria. And so we are removing that to gradually restore the form and function of the dunes. We have 219 acres of invaded dunes. So once again, we've got our work cut out for us. And we do still have this beautiful, diverse dune mat sensitive natural community on site, which you can see here. And our dune mat sensitive natural community is home to rare plants, including the federally threatened state endangered beach leia. We also have short-leaved ebacs and dark-eyed gilia. And in contrast to that beautiful, diverse dune mat, we have highly invaded foredunes with European beach grass, Ammophila arenaria. And as you can see here, there is very low native cover, very low diversity. Similarly to our salt marsh, we are also monitoring our invaded controls compared to native reference sites and different orders of treatments of imazapyr and burning. So we have some areas where we have burned first and then sprayed, and other areas where we've sprayed first and then burned. And luckily the burn worked much better in this upland dune habitat. Uh, so here you can see our Ammophila cover change from 2022 to 2024. And so our herbicide then burn treatment was highly effective. Here you can see a sharp drop off in blue. It was very densely invaded and then was reduced to approximately 1% cover, which was equivalent to our reference site. In contrast, the area that we burned first and then sprayed only reduced the cover to 10%, which, while this is fairly good, just not as effective as our herbicide then burn. So here you can see native dune mat cover, and at this time, all of our treatments have reduced native dune mat cover compared to the reference site. We just think we need more time to let our native vegetation recover to get a significant response. Here you can see a photo point from our herbicide then burn area. So we've got pre-treatment on the top left. You can see it's dense Ammophila, and after the herbicide then burn, that treated Ammophila really burned off pretty cleanly with just a fringe of Ammophila remaining out in the foredune here. 1 year later, we just had this dead stubble with very few remaining live plants. A year after that, we were starting to see some native vegetation come in, which was a really positive sign. And although it hasn't been a significant response at this time, that is native seaside daisy or Gerund glaucus on the foredune here. So in contrast, our areas that we burned first, they started out with moderately high Ammophila cover, and the burn did not burn as cleanly without the herbicide treatment ahead of time. And we wanted to avoid spraying while rare plants were blooming, while potentially birds could be nesting. So we sprayed almost a year later. And unfortunately, during that time, there's quite a bit of regrowth. And so a year later than that, while we've got a pretty decent die-off of Ammophila, it's still remaining on the foredune, so it's still a challenge to confront. So in summary, our herbicide then burn treatment was highly effective in reducing Ammophila cover. Highly recommend it. Burning alone reduced Ammophila cover, but the substantial regrowth that was observed in the summer likely prevented this from being highly effective. And so at this time, we've treated 92.3 acres, which we are really proud of. We've got a lot of follow-up to do. However, in our areas that we herbicided then burned, we've got some sparse areas where we're able to switch to just hand pulling at this time, which is a really great sign. And we're also seeing some areas where endangered beech leah and other rare plants are coming in. So this is looking like a really successful treatment, and we're really excited about it. Thank you so much for your time. And there's so many people who have contributed to this project before I got on board. So thank you so much to them and all of our supporters and partners. And I can take any questions at this time if we have extra time.
Thanks, Kelsey, and thanks for staying on time. Questions for Kelsey? Nobody? Or oh, I see one in the back there. You're you. Yes, you. That's the right person.
Yeah. Hi, Kelsey. Thanks for that. I was curious. You didn't do an herbicide alone treatment for the Ammophila, correct? I'm
That's
curious.
correct.
Have you seen any research on just using herbicide? Because as you were just presenting, I was wondering if it's the herbicide that's killing the Ammophila, or like if you just burn, is it not? It's like the roots are still alive, and so that's why there's the regrowth. But maybe the herbicide alone kills the roots. So my question is there any studies or research on the use of just using herbicide to control Ammophila?
Yes, Point Reyes has done extensive treatments, I believe, and several other areas along the coast have treated with just imazapyr. And this can be effective in the long term with repeated treatments. However, that thatch remaining behind seems to be problematic for native plants coming back. And so we're super happy with the combination of herbicide followed with a burn to remove that biomass and allow native vegetation to recolonize the area. And also seems like it gives us this, 1-2 punch so it can't recover from your herbicide application.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we got a question over here.
I was just curious if you're going to try to reintroduce Lamus mollis, the native dune grass, a couple of years beyond when the Ammophila seems to be finally gone.
We have that as a potential adaptive management method. At this time, we think that the native plants are likely to come back on their own. We have some Lamus mollis scattered very sparsely in there. So right now I'm crossing my fingers it'll come back on its own, but we may end up implementing some seed collection and scattering or plug planting of Lamus mollis.
Okay, any other, yep, right there.
Did you consider doing some mechanical removal for getting the bigger biomass rather than doing the herbicide and the burn? Well, the burn would have been good to do with a mechanical. Did you entertain that?
That was certainly something we considered. Our dunes are full of really large wood coming out of the Eel River. So the mechanical, turning over of the sand would have been really complicated. And there's also a possibility of cultural resources in our dunes. So it was deemed best not to mess with that.
Okay, maybe one more question. I think we got one back there.
Yeah, there's an online question asking if you've got Arctostaphylos pajoensis near your dunes.
No, we do not.
Oh, it was from the last talk, but I don't
that
think
was
they're
last
still
talk.
on. Okay, that was an old one. Okay, maybe do we have one more question since that was a big no? It seems we have that was a short question. Everybody good?
Could I ask one question?
Okay, go
Sorry,
ahead. You go ahead.
last
Yes.
one. Great presentation. I was curious if you have seen or expect to see changes in the foredune morphology with the loss of the European beach grass. Have you seen or expect to see like blowouts and like destabilization of the dune and the restoration of the processes that like create the dune ecosystems?
Yes, we are hoping to reactivate these processes that have been kind of suppressed by the Ammophila that is so dense and holds the dunes so tightly with these, dense web of rhizomes through the dunes. And although we haven't implemented any monitoring of this, I believe at this time we are seeing some more gradual ramping, which allows the sand to come over the dunes and deposit in the back dunes. We're seeing more of that process happening that really supports our native plants, where we've got sand movement and more open sand happening. That is, I think, really great, especially in this natural setting where it's backed by estuary and houses and large roads are not such a concern here. So we're really excited to see natural processes happen.